everyone, it's Theresa, and I am back with my part 2 on these flips. These are clearance flips today, so let's jump into our first project. All right, so I got this beautiful baby here for, I believe, like $2 or $3. I can't remember, and I couldn't see the tag. This is from Hobby Lobby, and what I'm doing is I've actually removed this metal basket off of the front, and I'm filling the holes where it was kind of screwed into the back. I'm just doing that with some of my Star Bond quick adhesive stuff. This one is in the color black, and that will make more sense in a few minutes when I actually start to, when I actually start to paint it. So I only filled the top ones because I am going to screw it back in to something else, but I'm going to put something else on this one, if that makes any sense. You'll see what the heck I'm talking about in a few minutes. So I am going in with a little bit of the DIY paint in the color Black Dress, and by a little bit I mean very little bit. I wasn't sure how much I wanted to cover it, but I ended up covering it pretty good, and I left some spotchiness, I guess, just to give it kind of a little bit more of a rustic touch. And now I'm going in with a little bit of the surface wax from Chalk Couture with their particular little applicator. Excuse me, you do not need to use their applicator. You can use just about anything. I think I used to use like a very large, like hard sponge kind of thing. Not too hard, but you know what I mean. And then I am going to apply this stencil onto it. Now these are a silk screen stencil, so they do have an adhesive side and obviously the, upside. And I'm going through with the color Rust. Now this ends up looking way more orange than I wanted it to. I wanted it to legit look like rust, but I thought it looked a lot more orange, so I am going to end up doing some distressing to it. So fear not, this video will have lots of wax. And I'm just applying that all with a small squeegee, and I really wish I had the bigger squeegee. It would have gone a whole lot faster. But that color is a fairly new color, and the transfer itself isn't like one of the club transfers from last year, but there is going to be a couple of different options obviously for this. I was going kind of more in the Thanksgiving fall direction. That is kind of the fallish vibe that I'm going for on this video. And now I'm taking a little bit of dark wax and I'm just kind of going over it. I believe I'm trying to remember if I started with dark wax and then added on some antique wax from Folk Art. I think I did. I can't remember. This has been a few weeks now that I've made this, I think. And honestly, I don't even have it anymore. I actually took it up to the shop that I'm selling at, which is so exciting. It's over in Oviedo, Florida, if you're in the local area. I'm going to be eventually, I filmed it the last time I was there. I filmed some footage just of checking it out, seeing what's in there. I'm going to do something kind of fun with it and actually show you and have you count how many things you can find of mine. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking some screws that actually came with this hardware, and they're too long. So these are already pre-drilled. These are the holes that were on the bottom, and I'm adding some hooks. But like I said, the little screws were actually too long. They poked through on one of them, which not a big deal. But obviously if you have a brand new piece of thing that you're trying to put up on your wall, you don't want the screws poking through because you're going to scratch paint or scratch your whatever. So I'm going to fill that one with that same Star Bond glue, same process as before. But like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my really heavy duty pliers and I am going to snap off the edge of that screw. Now if you do not have pre-drilled holes, you'll need to do that first. You'll need to pre-drill because now you've taken away like the point of the screw, but I already have pre-drilled holes, so I didn't have to do it. And then, like I said, just screw it down, just making sure that it doesn't pop out the other side because I wanted the black screws, obviously, so that they would make some sense. And I couldn't get it to sit down in that little hole, so I just kind of hit it with the back of the screwdriver because why not, right? It seemed to work. And this is a pretty soft piece of, I think it's more like MDF. It's not necessarily wood, so it worked out really easily with that. Again, they were pre-drilled, so it didn't take a lot of effort. So once eventually, it was a little too long, I think, so then I'm going to go ahead and snip off just a smidge more, and then I'll put it in again. Apparently I'm showing you the whole process, but that's okay. I sound a little weird today because I literally just woke up about 15 minutes ago, and when I'm filming this, it is 6:30 in the morning. It's when I have time to do the voiceover. So, all right. So now I'm going to add my hardware onto the back. I'm not as worried about the color of the hardware right now because it's on the back. You're not going to see it. I'm going to tape down my pieces that I have, and again, my very technical method here. Just tap down the screws. These little screws that come with this hardware from Amazon, they are the tiniest itty bitty little screws ever. And they're really hard to work with. So if you happen to get something like this from Amazon, these big like D-hooks, make sure that you pre-drill your holes. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there and struggling and struggling and struggling and struggling. All right, so now I have the metal part. I threw this part all together. I'm so sorry. I thought I had a little bit of a break in here, but I did not film any or take any pictures of them all by themselves before taking them up to the little shop that I sell at. So this is actually the next project. You're going to see in a few minutes the whole reveal, though. I did get that. So I am taking this DIY paint. This one is called Summer Crush, but then I added in just a touch of black, a touch of that little black dress. To again, make it, I wanted it to make it a little darker. I didn't want it to be super orange. And this one I think does legit end up looking like rust. Now the DIY paint is a clay-based paint, so when it dries down, it looks a little different. Like when you're applying it wet, it looks a little different of a color, but rest assured, once it dries down, it will definitely look a lot more like the intended color. And you can darken it up obviously with wax, which is what I intend to do here because again, I wanted it to look more like rust. And right here, to me, that is like completely the rust color that I was going for. So now I'm going to take some dark wax and really bring out all of the detail on all of those little greenery pieces. Now, I think this would be super sweet for actual to use for springtime as well. That is what that's what this piece kind of came off of, was a spring piece. And I think it was super sweet and super cute, but I wanted it to update it for fall and give it a little something different. I wanted it to look super rustic, and I think this is definitely making it look super rustic. So I'm kind of going back and forth between the little bit of the paint that I have left on my little plate there and the wax. And if you notice in the bowl, I have like a really darker color. So that is what I'm using. That was my first go around when I added the black to it, and I went too far. So I thought this was wax, but this is actually the really deepened, darkened up paint, the Summer Crush with a bit of black. The black is like most black paints. It goes super far. You don't need very much to make different colors. So like I said, I'm kind of going back and forth just to make sure that I get a really nice, not transition, but a really nice difference, difference between those two paints. And if you go too far, you can always go back to the original one. Now I'm going in with some of the wax as I wanted it a little bit more, just a touch more. And I have barely any on my brush. And now I'm going through and I'm adding a lot of that detail with all of those little greenery pieces around the rim. It basically just anywhere that needed a little bit more wear and tear, if you will. And I did also end up painting the inside of the bucket just because I was like, if you're pulling things in and out, you want to make sure it looks like it's done. Obviously, once it's filled with, with different florals or pumpkins or whatever it is, you won't really be able to see the inside. But I figured, I'll just do it just because I knew I was planning on reselling it. That has it's been really fun though, having a shop, and not that the whole shop is mine, of course, but having a place to sell my stuff. It's been kind of fun looking at it and thinking about it from that perspective when I've been making stuff. So I've really been enjoying it. So now I have a piece of plywood that I already applied a wood tint to it, dried it, the whole thing, and I'm taking the color Faded Burlap. And I'm going through, and at first I wasn't sure how, how much to cover it, how little to cover it. And I decided at first I was like, okay, just a little bit of coverage. And then as I'm doing this, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to add letters to this. So you need to be able to see them. And I planned on having them be black letters. So I do end up eventually kind of going in a lot more, which eventually I'll figure that out. And see, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh wait, nope, need more. So then I'm just going to cover it. And now I'm really focusing in up on that top part of it because that is actually where the lettering will go. I'm not trying to do full coverage again. I want some of that, you know, some of that stained wood to kind of peek through. And then we will be done with the painting and you'll see it's pretty rough. And I have a couple spots that I've marked as to where the screws have to go. That way I can kind of keep an eye on it while I am putting my letters on. So now I have some stamps from IOD. I've got the ink pad from IOD and their little thin mount, I think is what they call it. And I've actually kind of measured out like where the center is on my little thin mount, and I just marked it with some dry erase marker. I did it just by counting the blocks, really. Can't be much more simple than that. And I put out, you know, on there the letters, you know, for hello, fall. Obviously, there's a lot of L's involved in that, those words. So I am going to kind of redo it. And I mark again with a little dry erase marker so I can remember where my other letter kind of stopped. See, it was right there where the A was. That way I can come back and place it down and be able to do my other L's. I thought that that was personally a little bit ingenious. You will have to leave me a little pin, little marker emoji in the comments if you also felt like that was kind of genius. Not that I'm tooting my own horn at all, but I thought that was kind of a smart idea. And I don't remember seeing anybody else do it, so I'm going to take credit for it. Anyways, so now that my letters are on there, and those dry super fast if you're using the IOD ink, which you don't have to. You can use paint, you can use all kinds of different materials for it, and you obviously have to use stamps. You can use something from your Cricut, you can use anything that you get as far as like the sticker letters, those kind of things. You can use whatever you have. But I have the stamps, so I'm going to use them. So now that I have pre-drilled those holes, I'm going to add some little screws back in. These are the ones that actually came with the bucket, and of course, do you think I could find them all? No, I think I lost one somewhere along the way. I don't know. I thought I put them somewhere that made sense, but somehow I lost one of them. So now the bucket part on the bottom, originally it sat flush with the piece of wood. It was actually on the flat part. But I thought it would be kind of cool to wrap it around the edges because I am going to make this a hanging piece. So I'm just going to push those ends around to the bottom of it and actually just drill in, again, adding my holes so that I can screw in those pieces a little bit easier again. And of course, when I was doing this, somehow along the way, it ended up being a little bit cocked, but we're not worried about it. Again, I'll show you at the end how it ends up looking. So now I have this tray, and this one again cost me like next to nothing. Everything I got that I showed in this video at least was 90% off. I think at one point I did buy some things at 75% off, but I don't think I showed them in here. You guys will have to let me know as well if you really like the idea of doing these clearance flips. It's really hard to say when you're used to saying thrift flip, but it's a clearance flip. All right, so I have, again, like I said, I have this tray, super, super rustic, and it had handles, and I was like, well, handles is kind of weird on this little tray because it's not made to pick up and carry it around, so I decided I did not want the handles. So I cut them off, and then I couldn't get it in there enough, so I actually ended up taking a little bit of a lighter to it so that I could kind of burn it and get it flat, and then I added my Starbond glue, which I didn't show you because I've already shown you that a couple of times. So what I'm doing here is I've already applied my milk paint, and I'm taking a little bit of a spritz from my really fine mist sprayer, adding the water to it and going over it with the cloth. What that's doing is really smoothing out the paint job. It's really kind of I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, but it's basically smoothing it out, making it not look so chippy. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the best way to describe this, but it's basically smoothing it all out, filling it in on the cracks. And I like the chippy look sometimes, but on this one I wanted it to look more like that's the color the wood was stained. Either way, you'll have to let me know what you like better, if you liked the chippy look or if you liked the smoother look. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to wear away some of that paint to reveal some of the wood. And it looks really funny because apparently I filmed it in time lapse. So I'm painting some half beads with that same black paint. I'm going to use those as kind of my feet. So I'm going to use, of course, the Starbond glue that is in the black, makes it the easiest. By the way, don't know if you've seen this before, but you can take your painter's tape, flip it upside down, stick your beads to it. I think I saw Chalk It Up Fancy do it on Instagram. I'm like, that's genius. Why haven't I thought about that? I'm sure other people have done it before, but I just happened to have noticed it when I needed to, right? Instagram gave me what I needed at the moment. I didn't know I needed it. So again, I'm doing the Starbond glue, putting on the glue onto the bottom part of the bead, spray the accelerator, and then it will have feet. Amazing. So here's the whole look of all of it. This is including the part 1 from last week. So if you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, I had a part 1 on the thrift flip road trip that were more traditional thrift flips. But this week I wanted to do a few clearance flips. So I hope you guys enjoyed them. I think they're really fun to do, and I think a lot of times you can get a better price buying things on clearance to flip them than you can at the thrift store, because right now my thrift store, astronomical prices sometimes. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you like the look of these, and make sure that you check back with me again on, I believe, the 25th of September, because I'm going to be co-hosting the What Would You Make challenge with OK at Home and Connie's Creative Creations, and it's going to be all wood, and it's going to be all Christmas. Haven't made them yet, but that's what it's going to be. So I hope you guys enjoyed it today, and I will see you next time.